Reincarnation was the most promising magic prodigy in history, but now he is imprisoned as a criminal. His name is Reborn, the youngest son of the Reincarnation family, a prestigious noble house famed across the continent of Dre. But from the moment he could speak, Reborn was struck by the curse of the demon Lord Ken, which prevented him from using any form of swordsmanship or magic. Worse still, that once peaceful and prosperous house suddenly fell to ruin after his father and brothers each disappeared under mysterious circumstances. At the exact moment everything collapsed, Reborn was seized by the Padong family and brutally tortured to death. But when he opened his eyes, he was no longer in the real world, but standing on an endless battlefield, a place called the God's Arena of Adian. There, the gods summon strangers from across the universe, then grant each one a random vocation to fight and survive with. But with the vast numbers of ancient monsters in Adian, no player can survive more than 3 days. However, by some miracle, Reborn awakened the masterclass vocation Ghost King. Because of that, he mastered all the professional paths like assassin, summoner of spirits, and necromancer. Therefore, Reborn easily survived more than 3 months on the endless battlefield. But in his second life, he was quickly ended after challenging a god of destruction. Although he failed, his story did not end. Before vanishing, that god granted him a wish. When he woke again, Reborn had returned to the age of 12. And best of all, he still retained the privileges of a player. At that moment, the noise in his ears slowly roused Reborn. Before him stood a worried-faced girl shouting something. Her voice was piercing, making Reborn spring wide-eyed. Reborn sat bolt upright while Colin fumbled. How could someone so weak be forced to overwork? Reborn stared at her in bewilderment. Isn't that Colin, the Reincarnation wet nurse? How is she standing before him looking so young? Light shone upon the Reincarnation estate. Could I have really gone back? Reborn turned to Colin. Colin, give me a mirror, quick. She hastily handed him a mirror. Reborn took it. In the glass was his youthful face. Reborn turned to her. Colin, what's the date today? She looked puzzled but answered, Sir, it's May 17th, 1892 according to the calendar. Reborn stared at his hands in shock. 1892? Sweat poured down his face. Is this the year I turned 12? At the same time, a flame erupted before his eyes, his pupils reflecting a terrible image, and his heart panicked. Tiny sparks appeared around, and the Reincarnation family began to walk the path to destruction at Pon's hands. The image of the god of Adian appeared. I will grant you one wish. Thinking that, Reborn bit his lip. Have I really returned to that moment? At that moment, a foot stepped forward, and a snort sounded. An old man entered, cutting through his thoughts. Seeing the young master still not up, I thought you were pretending to be ill again. Reborn's eyes widened in surprise. That person, he thought, was Anandro, the captain of the Reincarnation cavalry. He continued, it seems the young master really isn't well. He raised his hand. Then you can skip training today. Colin turned and said, I told you so, but he cut her off. She glanced at him in surprise, and Anandro was equally astonished. Reborn curled his lip into a confident smile. I'm fine. He turned to him. What are we training today? He thought to himself, I told him to rest and he asks that? Then he answered, today is long sword practice. Seeing him stand, Anandro doubted, are you really the young master I know? Reborn grabbed the wooden sword from the rack. Yes, I am Reincarnation. He was too shocked to speak. The wish had reversed time, and the shadow of the demonic king from his past life appeared behind Reborn. Forget swordsmanship, today I want to hunt monsters. His eyes were full of excitement. This is my chance to fix everything. Light shone on the Reincarnation estate building. The system panel appeared. Level 1, Strength 7, Agility 5, Stamina 3, Mana, none, curse. Because of the Demon Lord's curse, he cannot use mana and is constantly haunted by monsters. Reborn thought, luckily I can still use this status panel. Even though I've gone back to the past, at this moment this is the only ability I have that no one else on the continent possesses. At that moment, Enro entered. Young master, the monsters are ready. He quickly reached out and closed the status panel. They all walked out to the yard together. In front of him was a fierce goblin screaming. It saw Reborn as prey and lunged forward, flailing its arms and legs. Reborn raised his sword, causing it to halt in fear. Anandro, Colin, and the servants watched him from a distance. Colin shouted anxiously, Please stop the young master. Just seeing a goblin makes him faint. She was right. Until yesterday I was still that kind of person. Ryun closed his eyes and sank into his subconscious. When he opened them, his pupils glowed blue. But now I know. A notification popped up. System warning, the curse has activated. Fear of monsters increasing. Fear enveloped Ryun, but he remained unharmed. It turned out that fear of monsters was also part of the curse. Anro couldn't bear the sight and drew a long breath, voicing an objection. That's enough for today. But Ryun cut him off. Not enough yet. He stepped forward. The goblin lunged in a frenzy, screaming. Fear erupted, and Ryun's face visibly went pale. He involuntarily took a step back, then drew a deep breath, forcing himself calm. Steady now. I'm not the person I was before. The opponent is just a goblin. I can do this. This curse is nothing compared to the danger he poses. The goblin's face was ferocious, its eyes flashing. The arrogant face of the Adian god appeared. Pressure radiated from him heavily, but Ryun did not back down. He leapt forward, swung his sword, and his gaze flashed blue. The heavy blow landed on the goblin's head, forcing it to its knees. Everyone was astonished by the scene. The system panel appeared. By gaining experience overcoming the curse, you have conquered your fear. Curse level decreased. His sword had snapped in two. The goblin, in pain, raised a hand in surrender. Ryun focused on the system panel. From now on you will no longer feel fear of monsters. He spoke. Please give me a real sword, will you? Anro drew his sword, making Colin feel like her soul would leave her body. Young master, today you finally... He turned back, smiling confidently at him. His face flushed, becoming a real man. This family is slowly declining. The goblin saw the sword and trembled with fear, its whole body shaking. Ryun tightened his grip, his eyes burning blue as he slashed down. A spray of bright blood arced up, but determination still sat on his face. Anandro thought to himself that a glimmer of hope had appeared. Then he turned to Colin. Look closely. Ryun swung his sword, goblin blood spraying. That image was that of a true heir. Sunlight streamed through the window of Ryun's room. He was splashing water on his face to wash the goblin's blood away. In the mirror, his reflection smiled in satisfaction. The image of his past self appeared in the mirror. The status panel was still active and the support system effective. I have proven I can overcome the curse and grow stronger. Ryun raised his hand and summoned the status panel. A notification appeared. Your experience increased. He was not satisfied with the current result. There's growth, but still too little. If he wants to level up by hunting goblins, he'd have to kill thousands upon thousands more. He had to hurry. The cries echoing through the family were approaching. Ryun gritted his teeth. At least he'd confirmed he could overcome the curse. He stared at the system panel with resolve. No matter what, I must not miss this opportunity. Current situation of the family. Father and elder brothers have been missing for 2 years. Though in danger, the family still maintains its position. The enemy's plot has not yet begun. He suddenly clenched his fist. Now that he had confirmed the first way to level up, it was time to test the second method. At that moment, a red-haired girl wearing a mask appeared. Blue sky and white clouds, sunlight shining through the window. In the receiving room, Ryun sat opposite the girl. Senna spoke. I've heard about the sun goblin, she asked skeptically. But is the real reason you summoned me here to practice magic? Ryun was lost in thought. The family's head of magic was like a captain. She was one of the few seventh circle mages on the continent, a mysterious woman. Apart from the clan leader, no one knew her true background or capabilities. Her voice was full of sarcasm. Are you really getting cocky just because you beat a goblin? Senna sneered. Magic training is completely different from swordsmanship. From the start you had no talent, which is why we never trained you. Have you forgotten that? Ryun replied calmly. Of course I know, because the curse stole all my talents, so except for swordsmanship and learning, I couldn't even sense mana. He curled a smile. But that's yesterday's story. What if I told you I can sense mana now? Senna was stunned by Ryun's words. The teacup on the table still steamed. Senna suddenly cast a technique that made her seem even more enigmatic. Senna said, you can open your eyes now. I just drew an image before you that can only be seen with mana. If what you say is true, try guessing what I drew. Ryun answered, a beautiful red dragon, right? Senna froze, and he asked, did I guess wrong? She replied awkwardly, "No, you've really changed, totally different from yesterday. But if you didn't perceive mana the way I do, you should have seen something else, not a dragon. The clan's lay origin. How on earth did you break it? I only taught you how to sense mana." Suddenly Ryun interrupted. "I can sense mana, but I can't use the family's inherited mana condensing method. So I need your help." Senna immediately turned to him with a stern face. He thought, if mana isn't accumulated, it can't be used. Mana condensing is the necessary path to level up. She sighed. "Did you try already? But do you understand what that means? Drawing out mana to condense it rips the body apart to guide the energy. I'll be the one holding your life in my hands." Ryun fell silent and smirked softly. He said gently, "Are you going to kill me?" Senna reacted at once. "Master." Ryun laughed. "Anyway, my current body can't resist you." He briefly thought, "But you're the only one I can rely on." Even when attacked in my past life, the image of Senna in my mind always left an indelible impression. He suddenly thought, when mana ran out and my body broke down, she was the one who protected me to the end. Ryun always remembered those kind images. Then he spoke and reached toward her affectionately. "I trust you more than anyone." At that moment, the room grew quieter. Ryun knelt on the floor, naked with not a scrap of cloth on him. The atmosphere weighed heavier than ever as a voice echoed. "Then let's begin. The Blue Earth mana condensing method is an inheritance reserved for our direct bloodline. I only know the theory, but he could already apply it to guide mana." Blue Earth method? In Adian, I used this to train and increase attributes and levels. Ryun glanced over casually. Senna immediately reminded him, "You must concentrate." He obeyed. Yes. She warned him beforehand. "It will hurt a lot, don't make a sound, and don't struggle. If you can't bear it, firmly think that you want to stop." When Ryun heard the word pain, he thought, "Pain?" The worst images of Ryun's life flashed clearly through his mind. S's indifference, her cold, cutting smile, the look in her eyes that could kill someone also appeared vividly, making Ryun feel more hate than fear of pain. He turned and shouted loudly, "I said I trust you." Senna immediately composed herself and focused on the mana condensing process. "All right." She quickly began channeling, causing everything around them to be wrapped in blazing flames. Ryun's body also grew fiercer, veins of light flaring through him. The On curse was activating. Mana inside Ryun's body surged violently. Senna concentrated fully, realizing the On curse was exactly as the Lord had described. But this was something Ryun had anticipated. He thought to himself that he would channel a bit more mana. At this time, the On curse triggered repeatedly. System notifications appeared visible only to him. But the On curse was draining mana, while Senna's power tried to overcome it. The result was clear. Ryun's mind filled with thought. Even a 7th-tier Archmage's mana couldn't break this supreme curse. However, applying the method he learned in Adian made a difference. Let the curse destroy the mana. The moment the mana burst out, control its range within the body, trick the curse and retain the portion of mana inside. Senna noticed something off and whispered, "Master." She thought the mana is spilling out but not escaping his body. The training process seemed to take a different course. Resisting the On curse. System notifications kept appearing. On curse activating, then being resisted. Ryun gradually felt the spreading heat, the mana pathways in his body seeming to burn away. He gritted his teeth and endured. "You think I'll give up?" Countless images of brutal pains he'd endured flashed through Ryun's head. He realized he had suffered this pain thousands of times before. "I am a master player of Adian, one who understands mana better than anyone." That understanding lay not in the body but in the soul. The pain still engulfed his body. Ryun remained lost in thought. The On curse, though never encountered before, compared to the curses of a demon lord, is trivial next to the Adian gods. The power within him had reached its limit. Senna stayed focused on her primary objective, but the overwhelming power was gradually exhausting Ryun. He collapsed to the floor as Senna cried out in alarm, "Master!" Ryun's mind ached and his consciousness faded. But it was fine. The bloodstains from those days surged back. The old pain still haunted him. The terrible images of that day could not be erased from Ryun's memory. He suddenly recalled, compared to that pain, the words still echoed. "I never expected the experiment subject from the Sermine family to end up like this. Tomorrow we could chop off an arm to test regeneration, right? Too bad, we should just dispose of him. finish quickly and return to Padon. The long sword immediately lunged at him like a gust of wind, but someone suddenly appeared and caught the blade. The muscular figure standing there left Ryun bewildered. He glanced over and heard the soldiers shout, "Intruder! Stop him!" That night, the full moon hung in a chilly wind, the scene hazy and his thoughts drifting. Ryun suddenly woke, eyes wide as he looked around, a gentle voice sounding, "You're awake?" Anandro stood there, bloodstains on his body. He spoke softly, "Sorry I'm late." Ryun, eyes full of hope, "Anandro, did you come to save me?" Anandro was quite badly wounded but still managed to answer. His warm voice echoed with apology, moving Ryun deeply, tears streaming down his face. He snapped awake after an unsettling dream, tears still soaking his cheeks. The mana condensing succeeded, right? I should be happy, but the dream's memories cast a shadow over me. It's fine, that won't happen again. Now I have the method, but I mustn't let others find out, especially be wary of the Padon family. I'm not strong enough to confront them yet. My next move is to accelerate the downfall of the Sachmin family. Today the sky is clear, white clouds drifting lazily over the Sachmin mansion. Ryun sat up in his pajamas, scratching his head with an awkward smile. So the mana condensing method failed. Huh? Senna looked surprised and turned to him. Anandro was also surprised, blurting, "Huh?" The three of them fell silent, the atmosphere growing more awkward. Ryun pressed his lips, narrowed his eyes, thinking, "I'm a bit embarrassed about the two visitors, but I can't tell the truth. It's not that I have a secret I can't share. It's that I'm not sure they'd believe me." He smiled, clenching his palms, and said, "Everyone expects too much of me, so I tried, but right now I can't sense any mana at all." Ryun held out his hand to Senna. "You can check if you want." She hurried over. "I don't understand why the master would deny success, but if so, may I check?" Senna quickly summoned a blazing spiritual power. She probed his mana, took Ryun's small hand and transmitted energy into his body. Soon after, Senna's whole body radiated a large amount of mana. She widened her eyes, gritted her teeth and asked, "What is this?" Ryun only smiled slightly as small golden specks appeared before him. Senna stammered as she withdrew her hand. "The mana really has disappeared. It was clearly there yesterday." She collapsed on the spot, dejectedly walking out. "Sorry, master." Ryun watched her retreating back and called awkwardly, "Senna." Anandro suddenly looked embarrassed, especially when he saw Senna slam the door closed. He turned, raised a fist in encouragement. "After all, you succeeded in hunting the monster. Just focus on your swordsmanship." Ryun trembled as he lifted his arm, giving a wry smile. "Actually, I can't do it a second time. After that incident, even eating became difficult. You've heard Colin talk about it, right?" Anandro froze when he heard that, speechless, his face darkening. Time passed. One fine day, yellow leaves drifted down in front of the mansion. 2 months later, winter arrived and snow blanketed the place. Colin slowly stepped out of the main door, dejected, tears welling in his eyes as he thought, "The master still hasn't left his room today." With the Sermine family lacking a head, only the lady was left to manage the household, but gradually even she reached her limit. Another butler, seeing Colin, asked, "The master still won't come out of his room today?" She replied anxiously, "Yes." He sighed in despair. "It's been 3 months since everyone saw him take down a monster in the arena, and now he won't even listen to the head trainer." A maid nearby sneered, saying that a sudden change was a sign of death, that in the end it was nothing more than a brief dream. Though frightened, Colin loudly retorted, "That's not true. He was trying to meet everyone's expectations that day." But another voice rose, leaving her tongue-tied. "The Sermine family is declining. Not only within the family but across the kingdom of Dardar. People mocked the master as the fool of the ruined house." Colin widened his eyes in protest. "He's only 12. Isn't this too much?" The butler added, "The higher the expectations, the deeper the disappointment, especially for a noble house in decline." The maid sighed. The servants began to leave. One of them added, "I'll quit after this month too." "Colin, what will you do?" The question made her even sadder. "Master," Ryun slowly set the knife down on the table with his hand, thinking, "The declining quality of food proves the family's finances are in serious trouble." His eyes suddenly lit up and a sly smile spread across his face. "Just as planned. If I were my former, naive self, I'd drain our assets to revive the family. But now, with the experience from Adian, I'm different. I'll wait silently, lulling the enemy into complacency. The chance to turn things around isn't far off. The collapse began when the clan chief, the eldest brother, and the mages who went searching all vanished mysteriously. The others never returned. Now the Sermine family lacks the people and resources to continue searching. The arena inside the manor, once bustling, now had only a few weeknights and demoralized servants left. The noble retainers who had been close to the former clan chief had also departed upon seeing the chaos. Because of that, Ryun could shut his door and stay inside without anyone suspecting. But the family's rate of decline was slower than he expected. They say wealth lasts 3 generations. Starting tomorrow, I must act more decisively. Suddenly, Colin flung the door open and shouted, "Master, it's time for training. The head trainer is waiting. Come on, let's go." Ryun's face darkened. He ground his teeth at her, quickly pulling the blanket over himself. "I'll lose today too." Colin's face darkened. Without hesitation, she pulled the blanket off him, her hand moving close to Ryun. "Huh? Your body is already in my arms at this point." Colin's determination was absolute. She tried to lift Ryun. "I will never leave the Sermine family." After saying that, Colin quickly carried Ryun out of the room. Ryun thought to himself. How, outside? The air was cool. Anro scowled. "Master, how many times have I told you not to hold a sword like that? Even if you fail, once you've sensed mana, it's easy to sense it again. The sword technique you're learning can condense mana with a single slash." Ryun's expression turned annoyed, realizing they hadn't given up either. He wanted to repay their loyalty and enthusiasm, but he couldn't reveal that he'd been secretly training at night, even if it meant using the physical domination skill. The body state simulation skill, which was very useful for assassinations in Adian, but right now he could only activate it clumsily. System notification. Experience increased. Stamina +1. Next, strength +1. Ryun thought, everything is progressing smoothly. He excused himself to use the restroom for a moment. Vitality's strange aura appeared everywhere. Domination. His face showed some worry as he opened the system panel. System notification. Experience increased. Stamina +1. Next, strength +1. Ryun thought, everything is going smoothly. 3 months of secret training have paid off. When all stats reach 20, I'll start leveling up. As an Adian, I'll choose the spirit class and also upgrade both summoner and assassin. Suddenly Ryun froze. Huh? Do Anandro and I have guests? He was surprised when he saw the chief steward of the Sachmin family, Chuno Hilda, appear. Chuno bowed respectfully. "Someone sent this letter for you." Ryun thought the situation's changed since returning, but they must have come to deliver the letter at just the right time. Enro asked solemnly, "Is it time?" Ryun opened the letter and read. It was an invitation to the birthday banquet of the second prince of the Darren Kingdom, Kai Darren, year 1892, RA calendar. On that very day, the final piece of the plan would be revealed. Amid the verdant fields, Ryun yawned. "I'm just getting up now?" Chuno said, "You've been asleep since we left. Last night Colin had to dress you until late." He replied, "I understand." Since neither Enro nor Senna could go with him, he continued, "Who would have guessed a large pack of monsters would appear at this time?" Ryun briefly thought, what terrible timing. The Sermine family's main duty is to stop monsters from the dark pool spilling onto the continent of Dre. Anandro was dispatched to defend the border, while Senna had to leave due to a summons from her mother. A summons from the one acting as clan head couldn't be refused. As a result, a 12-year-old child had to represent the family and travel to the royal capital. Chuno reassured him, "Don't worry, no one in the kingdom of Darren would dare lay a hand on Sermon's legitimate head." Ryun remained pensive, at least while this family still represents Darren. In the past, dealing with one attendee at the celebration was enough. But now the family has fallen. The clan head must attend the prince's birthday in person. Ryun sat cross-legged, thinking to himself, "My plan," he announced, "we've arrived." To Bon, the royal capital of Darren. The air was brilliant with sunlight, flocks of birds circling the vast sky. Before the hall, many servants stood waiting. Ryun stepped out of the carriage with an imposing demeanor. Kai greeted him warmly, Dragon of Dre. Welcome, sir. The formal greeting came from the second prince, Kai Darren. Chuno bowed. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor. The Sermine family is grateful for the kingdom's hospitality. Ryun was surprised to hear that. Thinking, hospitality? He observed everything from the palace gate to the royal palace, the people's eyes following the carriage, betraying anxiety. There were pitying looks for a Sermine in decline. Rumors about him spread smoothly. People whispered, "That's Ryun Sermine, the hopelessly spoiled child from those rumors. I hear the Sermine family is going to be wiped out." Ryun pondered. The nobles whispered too, mockery and contempt clear on their faces. Everything was unfolding exactly according to Ryun's plan. Everything was unfolding exactly according to Ryun's plan. Ryun nodded awkwardly and offered a greeting to the prince. Chuno looked helpless at Ryun's attitude. Those nearby continued their chatter. Ryun ground his teeth and muttered, "Keep dancing to my tune." At that moment, inside the palace a voice called out, "Hey, you guys!" The two hunters spoke up. "We came to the palace a week before the birthday to escort Ryun, right?" Gang Gun replied, "He's been in the city 5 days already. They said he arrived early to mingle with foreign envoys." Haidung said softly, "Let's hope so. Didn't you notice he was nowhere to be seen when he entered the city? No matter how he hides it, he can't even force out a greeting in front of the nobles. In his rooms he's been silent for 5 days straight, while the festivities are in full swing. The food's good, the wine, and the women too." Gang Gun said calmly, "Seeing everyone upset, I sent the youngest to persuade him." Suddenly Butte rushed in. "Captain," then reported Ryun's appearance and his decision. "Today I'll attend the banquet. I asked the guards to prepare to assist." Hearing that, the two hunters and Gang Gun grew more excited. Butte repeated it but warned, "Please keep it secret until the last minute, even from Chief Steward Chuno." The two hunters and Gang Gun replied in turn, "It's fine. As long as he shows up, people will quiet down." After a brief discussion, the three hurried off to prepare. Ryun stood there, deep in thought. These past days he'd been quietly training in his room. Attending the banquet wasn't just about escorting. It had a larger purpose. He thought to himself, "I have my own goals." Outside the palace, carriages were moving straight in. Sans sat inside a carriage, facing the palace gates. June also knew this beforehand, thinking, "He's definitely coming today." The sunset afternoon and the wide sky were truly picturesque. A voice announced, "Lord Sit Payton is entering." The palace doors slowly began to open. Sun donned a splendid outfit and stepped in slowly, glancing around as if assessing. Chuno was also present, preparing to step aside. But Sun recognized him and asked, "Isn't that Chief Steward Chuno Hilda?" Chuno replied gently, "Lord Sit Payton himself has come? Prince Kai will certainly be surprised." Sun continued, "I heard Seton arrived earlier?" Sun curled his lip and asked, "Ryun Sermine, right?" Chuno showed discomfort, but kept his composure and asked, "Famous? You mean?" Sun exclaimed, "Everyone knows. The rumor that the Sermine family would be destroyed, the story about Ryun." Chuno thought, a fifth-tier mage at 15, the most promising of House Pathan, and yet he dares insult Sermine here on their territory? Sans added, "Of course that's impossible. I'm also hunting for whoever spread that rumor. They must be punished for slandering a noble house." He thought, drunk at 7, killed villagers in Pawn at 12, notorious as the biggest scoundrel on the Dre continent, and he dares. Suddenly a voice rang out, "Dragon of Dre, Lord Ryun Sermine of House Sermine is entering." Chuno was startled, thinking, why did he suddenly appear? He was hiding in his room all day, wasn't he? Ryun appeared looking smart and refined, his hair neatly combed, and his outfit today was unusually handsome. A composed face and a bright smile made the crowd murmur that he was nothing like the rumors. With such dignified bearing, who would call him spoiled? Hearing the whispers, Sun flew into a jealous rage. He thought, that Sermine name has stolen all the spotlight again. Sans immediately moved closer as if to pick a fight. Ryun didn't hesitate either and took the initiative. "Sit Payton, right? I've heard Jez talk about you a lot." Chuno just stood there, watching carefully with narrowed eyes. Sans spoke. "You're the missing fourth son of Sermine, aren't you?" Sans paused, thought, then continued, "I know quite a lot about you too." Ryun cut in. "Lord Sit Payton is famed for his kindness. You two studied at the same academy, right? At the academy, no one didn't know of Lord Sit. Even if he only studied there for a few months, his reputation still echoes. Hearing that jab, Sun was enraged. Ryun continued, I heard you once saved a bullied friend and helped a girl being harassed. What else was there? Seeing Sun's blood boil, he kept going. And there was the knee incident too. Chuno rushed out to intervene. That was when young Master Ras had a knee injury and you brought medicine for him. The captain of the knights even asked me to pass his thanks to the young master. The atmosphere was like a time bomb, ready to explode at any moment. He pulled Ryun aside and said, Young master, you need to come this way for a moment. Ryun's eyes still glinted with hatred as he looked at S. Sans couldn't hide his anger, thinking to himself, You damned wretch. How dare you threaten me like that in front of everyone? Ryun spread a triumphant smile. Be as angry as you like, Sans, because your rage is part of my plan. A heavy evening atmosphere enveloped the place. Then a loud shout and a sharp crashing sound rang out from inside the palace. Sans muttered angrily, Ryun Smin, that damn name. Images and stories about Ryun kept replaying in his mind. I've heard Ras talk about him a lot. At the academy, everyone knows Sit's reputation. Sans thought, could Ras really have known everything? He even knew I was expelled, not that I quit, even though I used Pon's influence to silence people. Even the knee incident, Ryun's words still echoed. I also heard Lord Sit brought rare medicine to young Master Ras when he had a knee injury. Sans briefly thought of that humiliation. It must not be exposed. He still stood there, wearing a vicious smile, that image etched forever in his mind. Ras spoke up. Sit Peyton, you've crossed the line. Sun growled. Ras, I didn't know that girl was your lover. I just saw an ordinary person enter the academy and wanted to look after them. The man snapped back. Whether commoner or noble, they're a student first, and yet you used magic to harm a female student. Kneel and apologize to her now. If you're not sincere, I'll renounce my family name and personally kill you. Sun's eyes welled with tears. He bit his lip. Hearing that, he immediately fell to his knees before Jazz. Recalling those images made Sans even more enraged. He thought to himself he had to press on with the plan. Ignoring Ras, who'd already become a lost soul, at least he had to silence this younger brother. Sans muttered, in any case, trouble is about to find him. Suddenly there was a knock at the door. Sun called, please come in. The door slowly opened. The silhouette of a man stepped into the room. Sans froze. The person he met tonight was someone unexpected. Chief Steward Chuno Hilda of House Smin, the one who always followed Ryun closely, stepped into Sans' room. A clear moonlit night filled with unforeseen events. Outside, the carriages still rolled on. Ryun mused. The banquet achieved all its goals. It shed the image of a spoiled kid from the rumors. Now I'm seen as a young, capable heir, though not gifted as a knight or a mage. Sitpon had taken the bait perfectly. Chuno said, only now do I dare to say, your performances at the feast were astonishing. They made me feel that House Smin's flicker of hope has not completely died out. Ryun asked puzzled. What do you mean? I not only avoided befriending the other nobles, I also provoked House Pon. Hearing that, Chuno felt uneasy, but your actions in front of Sitpon were exhilarating. Ryun grew even more suspicious at that. He immediately raised his hand and unleashed a technique that startled Chuno. Master, why did you do that? Suddenly, Ryun activated a soundproofing charm in the carriage, then said, the flicker of hope hasn't died out? If you truly thought that, you probably wouldn't have chosen to betray House Smin. Chuno trembled when he realized Ryun knew everything. He tried to stay calm. What are you talking about? Ryun replied coldly, your crime is grave and unforgivable. A terrifying atmosphere of exposure spread. Ryun continued, but because those sins were committed for House Smin, I'll let it slide. Chuno was stunned. He realized he was only a pawn in this game. He stammered, Sir, how much do you know? Ryun calmly, I know it was an act of necessity, so I'll give you a chance. Listen carefully, then decide for yourself. The space inside the carriage fell silent, the carriages still rolling under the gentle night sky. Ryun went on to describe the plan in motion. He said everything was proceeding smoothly. Chuno, astonished, how could you have come up with this? How did you arrange a plan like this? Who are you really, master? Ryun, eyes full of hatred, stared at him with a cold face. Chuno suddenly covered his face. He hiccuped a few times from emotion. He trembled as he said, I want to shout with joy right now. Ryun smiled faintly. I can guess your choice. Chief Steward Chuno, you have surpassed the capital. Chuno thought, this child, how can he smile knowing what's about to happen? No, that wasn't a smile. It was a cruel, chilling gaze full of killing intent. Suddenly the carriage wheels jolted violently and stopped. A soldier panicked. Why stop? Keep moving. He turned to find the cause, and saw a gruesome effigy blocking the road, making him cry out, ah! All the guards raised the alarm at once. Ambush, protect the convoy. Arrows imbued with magic flew in. The captain ordered, mages, deploy shields now. You dare attack housemen? Come out and kneel at once. One soldier suddenly noticed something was wrong. A guard shouted, Captain, don't go near the carriage. No signal. Even allies will be cut down. The shields still held, but a worried voice rang out. This is bad. The young master, he's gone. There's no one left in the carriage. The captain panicked. What? In the dark forest, Chuno rode his horse at full speed. He stopped, gasping for breath. Behind him, Ryun was bound, blood scattered along the path. He hung suspended in midair, the system displaying warnings. Dark magic activating. Abnormal sensations activating. Physical degradation activating. Ryun closed his eyes, lips pressed tight. How long has it been since I used it? These abnormal states imposed on the body are too strong. In his head, he imagined the guards in panic. They must be in utter chaos now. In his previous life, after this kidnapping, the family poured all their resources into searching for him. The last direct heir, aside from his little sister. Ryun's brow furrowed. In the end, they collapsed quickly and were annihilated. But this time, I can exploit today's incident, he thought. Accelerate the timing as I wish. Turn it into a stepping stone for my goals. Chuno's terrified face appeared. He trembled. Disguise it? Pretend to fall? Sitting across, Ryun rubbed his chin. House Sermon's situation is dire. What if I show determination now to revive the house? The other houses would feel threatened. If they form an alliance to strike, Sermine won't hold. So I'll deliberately let the rumors spread. Let them think the last heir is no longer a threat. Let them become complacent. The image of arrogant son trampling him flashed up. But Pan is different. They always want to crush Sermon's seed. Ryun's eyes were bloodshot, his hand clenched. Then I'll use that to my advantage. A series of terrifying images filled Chuno's mind. Ryun's voice rang out. Sip Payton fell into the trap when I provoked him. If he has a plot, then the moment I return from the capital is when he'll strike. Of course, having another conspiring party would be even better. Chuno grew paler the more he heard. Ryun smiled faintly, extending his hand toward the man. Well then, choose Chuno. Will the forthcoming incident be the climax of Sermon's destruction? Back in the present, Ryun still lay motionless on the horse's back. System notifications continuing to appear. Mana is resisting the abnormal states. The Great Green Land spell is also countering those effects. His cold, sharp eyes slowly opened. All right, everything is unfolding according to my plan. Suddenly, a voice rang out, startling him. Sorry. Chuno, riding with a trembling body, repeated, Sorry. Sorry, sir. Ryun replied coldly, not bothering to look. Carry out the plan. That is the only way you can be redeemed. Chuno could only stay silent, tears streaming down his cheeks. In his mind, Ryun's body felt wrapped in a strange current of power. Magical resistance to abnormal states rose. All stats reached 20. The awakening sensation. He could feel a vast well of mana surging. Ryun opened his eyes wide. Good. The first growth condition is complete. On a quiet, moonlit night in a village, Chuno carried Ryun inside. Sans was already waiting and said, You've worked hard. He led the guards forward with an air of arrogance. Oh. Didn't expect you to show up in person. This is a special deal. A transaction by Chief Steward Chuno Hilda of Sermon. Sans stared straight at Chuno, murderous intent revealed, wearing the look of one who had betrayed his master. Hearing that, Chuno gritted his teeth and replied, You flatter me, Lord Sun Spatan. In the night, Sans sneered. Sounds like a dog barking at its owner. If you've betrayed them, shut up and accept your punishment. Sans held a scroll in his hand, information verified by the Asen family. He handed the scroll to Chuno. Is this information certain? Asen is a major clan on the Dre continent, famed for assassination work, but they also trade in information and never sell false intel. The scroll gave off faint currents of mana. Sans pointed at the scroll in Chuno's hand. It contained information about the whereabouts of the missing direct heirs of the Saruman family. Ryun, placed beside the tree nearby, heard everything. This was the reason Chuno betrayed the Saruman family. He sold him out, the heir considered incompetent, to find the missing siblings who might lead the Saruman clan. Knowing the Asen clan held this information, Chuno couldn't confront the Payton family with their overwhelming economic power. They paid the highest price to monopolize the intelligence. After the deal, Sans rubbed his chin and turned away. You can go now, your part is done. The traitor watched his retreating back. Chuno said, please keep your promise. Sans paused, tilted his head. Ah, of course. Then Sun smiled slyly. Your precious little master will be returned safely to Saruman. Finally, Chuno also mounted his horse and rode off. With the guards, Sans walked over to Ryun and bent to look at him. A guard asked, shall we deal with him? Sans answered, no need. Even if he returns, he'll be a soulless corpse. He broke into a crazed grin. By now Saruman has probably already identified him as the culprit. And only when he returns to the Saruman clan will the grand plan proceed smoothly. Everything is ready. Another guard asked, will you do it yourself? Sun, agitated, grabbed Ryun's hair. Of course. I had to see that traitor's face and wait here just for this. In the dark, gloomy night, a cold wind lashed at the skin. Suddenly a flash of light appeared. Ryun's eyes flew open, seeing Sans' silhouette. Seeing Ryun wake, Sans leaned in close and said, hello kid. Do you understand the situation now? Ryun only cast a cold glance elsewhere. That expression made Sans even more contemptuous. He couldn't help but laugh. The heir of the Saruman line reduced to this. Ryun stared at him and asked, Sun Spatan, what are you doing? He casually toyed with the weapon in his hand, unable to hide his mocking tone. For some reason I caught your proud Saruman family's precious seed. Ryun's face darkened. So, do you know what consequences will follow? S showed some displeasure. Now you threaten me? He gave a sinister smile. Threatening me like at that banquet before? Ryun didn't answer, only offering a mysterious smile. Sans stepped forward and patted his head. Looks like you overheard something from your brother Jazz? Huh? How pitiful. Then fresh blood spurted out. Sans growled. Your father and brothers are all dead. Don't be foolish enough to avenge the Payton family. He kept kicking his face without stopping. At that moment, Ryun's eyes flashed. Sans cursed even more. You don't understand why you're here, do you? You should have been protected in a carriage, surrounded by knights. Chuno sold you out. He traded you for information about your brothers. No one is coming to save you. He clenched his fist and continued. You ask what the consequences will be? Certainly war between the Payton and Saruman houses. My kidnapping of you will be the opening move, understand? Enduring the pain, Ryun let out a cold laugh. Nonsense, the dumb one is dead. Such bluster. His body began to radiate even stranger currents of power, startling Sans. Ryun returned to a strong posture, his body whole, exuding great energy as his magic circle activated. Immediately, multiple magic circles appeared around him. Facing the blinding light, Sans raised a hand to shield his face, and was encircled by Ryun's magic rings. Hope lit Ryun's eyes. He thought to himself, I've waited so long to come back. Sans panicked, sweat pouring down, his legs trembling and losing balance. In the moonlit night at the abandoned building, a song echoed, and from the magic circles a strange power continued to emanate. Sans scratched his head, annoyed. What? Nothing's happening? Ryun's face darkened as he calculated silently. Sans reached to touch his head. You dare pull this ridiculous stunt just to buy a few seconds? Ryun curled his lips. You idiot! Didn't I tell you? Sans froze. Ryun's wide stare made him quake. You've talked enough. Instantly, a magic circle sprang up and tightened around Sans' neck. He choked. Veins bulging blood spurted out. His voice cut off completely. Ryun, as if transformed into a demon, said, This is the Silence Magic Circle. Now your high-level spells are sealed. A mage can't read incantations. What do you think about that? Realizing this, Sans grew even more frantic. He tried to raise his hand to cast a spell, thinking he could use spellcasting without incantation. But Ryun scoffed. Incantationless spells only reach tier 3. You can't even use offensive magic anymore. This trap is for pawn scum like you. He thought he could strike at him. Facing that attack, Ryun showed no fear. I suppose you don't want to die, right? Sure enough, you used only a tier 2 spell, a level far below mine, and that was your greatest mistake. Sans' spell struck Ryun's leg hard. Sans felt a brief relief, thinking crippling a leg would be enough. But immediately, another sight left Sans stunned. The wound on Ryun's leg was healing itself. His eyes wide as mana light radiated forth, completely resisting the previous magic. Unable to accept that reality, Sans hastily threw his hand back and cast another tier 3 spell. Unable to accept that reality, Sans hastily threw his hand back and cast another tier 3 spell. Ryun thought to himself, this time a tier 3 spell? Too bad, you've just wasted your last chance. He sneered and said, you think I'll let myself get hit? As Sans launched a fire spell, Ryun immediately formed an ice circle in response. The fireball was snuffed out by the cold water. Sans sensed something wrong with his mana. He glanced over, then ground his teeth in silence. From Ryun's eyes, 3 sealing circles emerged, absorbing and reflecting Sans' mana back at him. Immediately, Sans' hand burned fiercely, agony overwhelming him. Seeing this, Ryun said coldly, any spell that exceeds the preset threshold will be crushed instantly. Your efforts are useless, you fool. Sans reeled, but quickly swung his arm to attack again, trying to calm himself. He knitted his brows as he watched the chains before him crack under Ryun's power. Looking at the final fracture in the shackle, Ryun laughed. Surprised? For me right now, snapping iron chains is nothing. And hey, magic circles don't just have 2 ends. Just as Sans tried to steady himself, another magic circle appeared to his left and unleashed a barrage of lightning that struck Sans directly. Screams rang out, while Ryun merely smiled softly, satisfied, watching his opponent collapse to the ground. He raised his hand to deliver another blow, but Sans had already fainted. Ryun slipped his hands into his pockets and walked by nonchalantly. Wake up. Deep in Sans' eyes, Ryun's silhouette appeared, and a well of fear rose in him. Ryun continued, this time our roles will be reversed. The room filled with the scent of magic smoke. When Sans opened his eyes, he saw Ryun sitting nearby, casually playing with the knife in his hand. Awake yet? I thought you might sleep forever. I was going to wake you. You've got a decent broken sword there, didn't you? Realizing he was bound, Sans struggled frantically but couldn't break free. He shouted, see, do you see? I told you so. He thought to himself. His voice had returned to normal, and the thing binding him was just ordinary iron chains, not a mana shackle. He immediately chanted a severing spell, but as soon as he finished speaking, a magic ring flared at his neck, causing him to scream in desperate pain. Ryun calmly said, you really thought I was stupid? Sans could only cough, grit his teeth, and endure. There's no visible magic circle, so how could he have done that? Ryun stepped forward slowly. Did you think I'd bind a mage without any preparation? He raised the sharp sword. I already inscribed magic circles all over your body. Ryun made a few cuts on Sans. Sans panicked and asked, what is that? Blood spurted forth, and strange sealing runes appeared on his abdomen. Ryun said, you know what this is, right? This is a band technique, carving a magic circle onto the body with scars, and this blood magic circle will activate automatically. He said coldly, in your previous life you used a wakefulness spell so I wouldn't lose consciousness, then used this very broken sword to carve into my body when I was only 12. Now everything has been reversed. Sans cried out in horror. How did you learn this spell? According to the investigation, you couldn't wield mana. Could you? Ryun looked away, sighing inwardly. Thanks to memories from my previous life and my experience in Adian. 3 months ago, after learning mana alchemy, I focused first on upgrading my stealth skill. The other skills were easy to acquire as well. Thanks to the mana stream, I discovered the secret of the skill. Only master tier players can recognize the existence of this mana stream. As long as there's enough mana and the conditions are met, I can recreate any known skill without practice. Ryun recalled, thanks to stealth, I escaped the Saruman household. memorized this place's layout and structure, then set traps in advance to catch Sunspatan. Thanks for falling into the trap so easily. At that time, the 3 magic arrays that were meant to amplify the pain you planned to inflict on me will now rebound on you. The memories of years of Sans torture began to fade. Ryun said coldly, "Now worry about how it's going to be used on your body." He raised the bloodstained knife and looked outside. The sunset flashing, Sans' battered body sobbed and begged, "Please, stop. It hurts so much. Please spare me." Watching his suffering, Ryun couldn't hide his pleasure. "All right, I'll stop for today." Sans burst into grateful tears and thanked him. But as Ryun prepared to leave, Sans suddenly shouted, "No, wait." His expression turned to utter rage. "It's not that I'm giving you a chance. My people are coming, you should run while you can. I told you because you stopped torturing me." Ryun frowned. "They arrive in a week?" Sans asked in surprise. "How did you know?" Ryun recalled his previous life and their indifferent attitude back then, replying coldly, "They were late so you could freely torture me. You told your subordinates to come back in a week." In the cell, Sans' curses rang out non-stop. You didn't faint?" "No, they're coming soon." Ryun grew more contemptuous. "With your nature, knowing Pon's people are coming, would you warn me? Never. You'd only beg, stall for time, and wait for Peyton to kill me." Sans saw his plot exposed and could only panic, as a flood of terrifying guard images filled his mind. Ryun pointed at his face. "Your direct subordinates are also Peyton's men. Now all you can do is scream in pain." Ryun swung his hand and slapped Sans hard across the face. The sealing mana on Sans' body remained in effect, making him only able to scream in despair. Ryun left casually. "Keep screaming. I promised I won't touch you today." Sans screamed himself hoarse, tears and snot streaming down his face. Standing nearby, surrounded by his magic circles, Ryun tilted his head and sneered, "Now, prepare to receive guests." Thinking about having to face Pon's elite troops arriving in a week, Ryun quietly prepared everything. 1 week later, just as predicted, many soldiers were brought to this place. The stern commander asked, "Are you the one leading the inquiry here?" They answered in unison, "Yes, sir." Everyone imagined the scene of Ryun being tortured for a week. Since the young master kidnapped the Saruman child and brought him here with no contact, I reported it to Lord Akane. The lead man asked again in puzzlement. "No one checked in for a week?" They silently circled and observed. One replied, "Yes, all entrances are being carefully guarded." After a moment, the commander radiated killing intent and clicked his tongue. "If he's so absorbed in torturing that he forgets to report, that's really troublesome." He shaped a weapon with his hand, the house order being to bring the Saruman child back alive. He gripped the weapon and decided, "I'll go in. You men wait for my command." He glanced back. Peyton's finger always placed the House Lord's orders above all. Even the blood heir of the Peyton clan was no exception. Quickly, he smashed the door open. Before stepping in, he warned, "I'm going in alone." The underling flustered. "Yes," he added. "You all stay outside and wait. Do not act on your own." Having said that, the commander entered calmly, each step slow but sure. As he moved, he scanned the surroundings, uneasy but detecting no unusual mana. Suddenly, countless mana circles of Ryun appeared before him, followed by a barrage of linked attacks aimed at him. Faced with this, he immediately formed a protective shield and blurted in surprise, "What is this?" He drew his weapon and focused a strong stream of mana. Damn. Something must have happened to Sunspatan. His staff detected a trap. With his power, he could see all the traps laid out. A trap activated by a magic array? He destroyed one, thinking, "This person knows the layout well and isn't inexperienced." He continued past the remaining traps without harm, wondering as he went, "Is this someone from Saruman or a third party?" Immediately he created a double layer of defenses on high alert. "Whoever you are, I won't give you an opening." He studied intently. A cold, decisive light flashed in his eyes. "I'll make you regret daring to challenge Peyton's hand." In the dark prison, not a soul stirred, only the acrid reek of blood flowing onto the floor. Sans lay there, drenched in blood, head bowed as if dying. Outside, Peyton's hand shattered the lock with powerful magic. Then he looked in and called out to the young master, and quickly broke every shackle, freeing Sans. He supported the young master. "What happened?" Sans could only tremble and was speechless. His face was exhausted, his eyes slowly closing. Peyton's hand tested with his staff. This mana is indeed Sun Spatten's. He grew more suspicious. What on earth happened? Bound behind him, Ryun still played the victim. Sans trembled and begged his underling. Use a healing potion now. The underling replied, priority is getting out of here first. There are still countless traps at the door. The enemy hasn't revealed themselves. It's very dangerous. He stared at Ryun, wondering. He controlled the young master and the child but didn't take them away. That means his goal wasn't just rescue. Refusing to accept the truth, he assumed the child had gone mad. But the mission still had to be completed. While he pondered, Sans collapsed to one side in pain, sobbing in frustration, then shouted, the one who did this to me is Ryun, that bastard. Hearing this, Peyton's hand glanced over in silence, then immediately unleashed power from his staff toward Ryun. First, I'll cast 3 spells to render this child unable to move by anyone but me. Level 7 magic, perfect binding, seizing the will, disrupting body and mind. But before he could strike, Ryun appeared behind him with a surge of energy. You're being too cautious. Reacting extremely swiftly, Peyton's finger immediately raised his staff to activate a powerful fire sphere. However, what it hit was only a wall. He wondered, a magic illusion? Then suddenly he coughed up blood, painfully realizing, I was interrupted while reciting the level 7 spell and suffered a backlash. Turning to look, Ryun moved and said, reverse flow mana is annoying, isn't it? You're a grand mage, so you'll recover quickly anyway. Ryun moved fast, creating countless illusions. If you noticed something odd when entering the room, you should have dealt with me first. Provoked, Peyton's finger raised the staff preparing to attack. Despicable wretch, daring to use illusions to fool a master illusionist like me. Ryun matched him, radiating power ready to counter, standing within the potent magic circle, shouting, dispel the illusions. From the opponent's magic circle, countless bolts of lightning shattered everything, but Ryun nimbly dodged them all. He glanced skillfully around, then widened his eyes and smiled. Even Peyton's cold expression couldn't hide his surprise. Quick as a flash, Ryun lunged. Facing this, the opponent cursed, and immediately kicked straight into Ryun's jaw, blood spouting, sending his body flying. Peyton's finger said coldly, you think you'll hit my weak spot with skills like that? He formed another fireball. Even if I burn half your face, the House Lord will overlook it. That illusion was your final card. Huh? If you had any other schemes, you would have used them before charging in. Hearing that, Ryun only smirked. Suddenly the opponent flinched. You thought Peyton's finger was limited to that? At that moment, beneath his feet lay a segmented blade. Realizing something, the man opened his eyes wide in shock. Before he could react, a swift slash cut across his neck, blood gushing. Ryun entered his soul into Sans' body, drove the knife in straight. The man uttered a few cries and collapsed. Peyton's finger hadn't yet grasped what happened and still called out, young master. Ryun, in Sans' body, smiled confidently. You're so arrogant I couldn't help but expose it. He curled a lip. Do you know soul transfer magic? Sans' soul is currently unconscious and trapped in my body, and you can't kill me because of the House Lord's orders. Ryun glanced at the runes etched on the opponent's body. I anticipated this. He also bears a blood magic array. Ryun's body remained motionless. Not only did it amplify pain, but the body was suffering another technique. A soul transfer spell to occupy another body for disguise and stalling. He shattered Peyton's staff. That was my true trump card. Immediately after, a massive explosion erupted from inside the room, and only an iron mask was hurled outside. Ryun slowly approached the blazing body. His body radiated an intense blue light. He smiled with satisfaction. Got you. He sat down and rifled through Dirak's belongings searching for something, and pulled out a small bottle of blue liquid. He poured the bottle straight over his body. The system immediately announced, pain resistance skill activated. Pain resistance skill leveled up. Ryun frowned, forced himself to endure the pain, but told himself there was no other choice. On Sans' body, the wounds inflicted by Dirak had to remain as proof of torture. He laughed, his face flushed with joy. I did it. I took down one of Peyton's fingers. A level 7 Grand Mage. The system panel suddenly appeared, announcing the quest complete and a massive level jump. He was stunned. A quest? The level up makes sense, but the system immediately displayed reincarnations level 15. He smiled with satisfaction. Jumping from level 2 to level 15 was entirely deserved after defeating Dirac. But was it because of that quest? Anyway, first things first. Riyun traced a blazing red magic circle on the floor, grabbed the corpse's legs and dragged it onto the table, placing it at the center of the circle. The red rings flared around the body. The success of this step would determine the speed of the next phase of his plan. The meridian was etched deep into the soul, not the flesh. Even while inside San's body, Riyun could still tap into his true mana. All he had to do was pump mana into the prepared meridian. The system chimed. Level decreased by 5. Additional conditions activated. An information panel appeared. Shadow, the assassin's hidden profession. Requirements. Clarity 20. Mana 15 before level 5. I succeeded. Riyun frowned. If he still had enough levels, he could try 2 more times. Blue lights spread throughout the room. Riyun closed his eyes and concentrated to cast the magic. The system continued announcing repeatedly, profession change successful. Additional conditions activated. Transitioned to the advanced profession of Soul Summoner. The Hand of Death. The Hand of Death requires mana 20 and assassin. With the 2 initial successful attempts, the plan would have stopped here. But after defeating one of Peyton's fingers, the level spike exceeded expectations. If he used the remaining levels to change profession a 3rd time, he could attain the hidden profession of Phantom. Phantom, the ultimate profession combining assassin and soul summoner. The most important requirement to achieve this profession. Soul magnitude. At his current level, failure would carry severe consequences. But if successful, his plan would accelerate like a storm. With no time left to hesitate, Riyun smiled confidently. System. Level decreased by 5. Riyun opened his eyes wide, racked with unbearable pain. System warning. Soul damaged. Rest required to recover. Purple energy surrounded his body. Blood streamed continuously from his eyes and mouth. Could the 3rd advanced profession be beyond his limits? Suddenly, in the midst of the pain, memories of the past appeared before his eyes. Run was surrounded by men wearing bird masks. Sun smiled cruelly as he grabbed Run by the hair. Alejandro's eyes curved in a satisfied smile. Alejandro shielded him from dozens of arrows. Senna, her body covered in wounds, still smiled at him. Riyun gritted his teeth and endured. Even if I must sacrifice my soul, I will achieve the phantom profession. A tremendous energy burst from his body, lighting up the entire room. The system appeared. Soul magnitude sufficient. Hidden profession unlocked. Phantom illusion. The system panel immediately displayed the illusion profession's details. Riyun was stunned. Illusion? Even in Aeon, I had never seen this profession, but since it's under the Phantom branch, its power will surely share similarities. I've achieved all my objectives. Now it's time to start the original plan. The Phantom's passive skill enhances the Soul Summoner's summoning. Killing that level 7 Grand Mage was for this step. Killing that level 7 Grand Mage was for this step. A priceless ingredient not to be wasted. System. Activate skill. Lich crafting. Normal Lich crafting requires Soul Summoner level 70. But with a level 7 Grand Mage's corpse, this is entirely feasible. Suddenly, the corpse's vacant eyes flared brilliantly. System. Lich crafting failed. Activating special crafting skill. He was astonished. A dense stream of black air coalesced in front of Riyun, twisting together to form a figure with an imposing presence. System. Special crafting. Success. Name it. Immediately after, the entire tower blazed. Purple light spilled from every window. An earth-shattering explosion rocked the area. The subordinates outside panicked and shouted, "What is happening?" Suddenly, a massive blast sent everyone reeling as they stared at the rubble in horror. Through the smoke and burning ruins, a pair of legs casually stepped out of the blast. Riyun, in Sun's form, strode out proudly. The stunned subordinates cried out, "Master!" He looked at them coldly with an emotionless gaze and spoke. "Is Dix causing you to panic? You are truly foolish. I mean, one of Peyton's fingers betrayed me. Do you still not understand the situation? Luckily, I used an artifact to bind him, but it probably won't hold long. I'll take Sermine away first. You hold Dix for me so I have time to return to the family. Reinforcements will arrive immediately. If you do well, you'll be richly rewarded. After finishing his orders, Ryun immediately mounted his horse and rode off, his figure gradually disappearing into the night. That was the last time the subordinates saw their master. A subordinate respectfully knelt before a man. Lord Pyrrhus. This man was Pyrrhus, a 7th-tier mage of the Peyton family. He asked sternly, "No sign of Dix inside?" Receiving the answer, Pyrrhus flew into a rage, clenching the paper in his hand. He shouted furiously, "Is this report true? So the only ones who know what happened that night are you?" The subordinate hesitated and replied, "Yes, that's correct, sir." Immediately, a soldier behind swung his blade down at the man, ignoring his painful screams. Pyrrhus remained cold and continued, "Lord Sun Spatan's disappearance is a serious matter. If Peyton's finger being involved in the kidnapping of clanhead Sermine is exposed, it will cause major trouble." Just then, chaotic noises poured in from outside. "Halt!" Outside, the guards kept issuing warnings. A powerful figure stepped forward, radiating such authority that everyone grew cautious. The man walked with such pride that he didn't need to do anything to make the surrounding soldiers fear him. Even his breath conveyed valor. And Jandro stood under the blue moon, his imposing figure even more pronounced. He spoke slowly. "What if I take another step? I will kill you all," Pyrrhus warned, daring to enter another family's territory without notice. "Don't you realize you'll give them an excuse to start a war between our houses?" And Jandro snapped angrily, "Weren't you the ones who started the war? Bring Lord Ryun out now," Pyrrhus said calmly. "Is it beyond doubt?" And Jandro replied immediately. A week after Ryun disappeared, rumors spread all the way to the border. Suspicious constructions and underground facilities were also discovered. The Peyton family setting up a camp here is clearly covering something up. Pyrrhus admitted honestly, "We truly don't know where clanhead Smin is. Besides, our young master Sun Spatan is also missing and asked for your cooperation in the search." And Jandro roared in anger, "Shut up!" Those words made Pyrrhus angry as well. Anro declared bluntly, "We won't let you disturb the scene before our investigation is complete." He stared fixedly at Pyrrhus. Pyrrhus met his gaze with equal intensity. Not far away, Chuno watched quietly, surprised to see Peyton's forces here. Hoping the situation wouldn't escalate further, Senna spun around and cast a warning spell. "Who allowed you to speak freely? Traitor." He went pale with fear and dared not speak anymore. Senna continued, "If not for the young master's words, I would have reduced you to ashes long ago. Now shut up and only speak about finding the Lord." Chuno hurriedly obeyed. The Lord said he would leave traces. Senna looked around and asked, "Here," Chuno answered. "If it were easy to find, the Peyton family would have found it already. Only Smin's great earth harps can find it. In any case, the Lord succeeded once, so the resonance of the harps must still remain." She chanted an incantation, creating a pale green orb. Through that orb, Senna saw what she was looking for. Found it. As soon as she finished speaking, she summoned it back to her side. Chuno stared in astonishment, unable to believe his eyes. A body hovering in midair appeared before the two of them. It was Ryun who had escaped Sun's body. Now Sun was tightly bound and hung from a tree, looking miserable. They realized Ryun was not there. Someone said skeptically, "It's only Sun Spatan." Sun had a strip of cloth tied around his neck, on which was written, "I am the kidnapper. Please punish me." At the same time, a neatly placed letter appeared below. Senna quickly spotted the letter. Chuno asked, "Any sign of the Lord?" Senna signaled to be quiet. "Wait, there's a letter here." She read each line carefully. If it were Senna, she would certainly find this letter. "I once planned to seize S's body to sabotage the Pon family's internal affairs. But if it's Clanhead Pon, an 8th-tier mage, the chance he'll detect that I've swapped souls is very high. If I return to the Sermine family posing as Ryun, could spark a war between the two clans. And right now, Sermine doesn't have the strength to endure a war, so there's only a third option left. Before I disappear, I must leave a convincing explanation for Senna." Chuno asked curiously, "What's written in the letter?" Senna quietly burned the letter and said, "Let's return to House Sermine, steward." The letter turned to ash in her hand. "There will probably be a lot to do." Sunlight poured down over the land below. Birds flew freely across the sky, their shadows cast onto the tiled roofs. A small figure appeared on the road. A voice called, "Hey Long, the captain's looking for you. Let's go." Beside Chuno and Senna, he looked at her bewildered. "Lady Senna?" she replied mysteriously. "I'm certain." As for the kid, Long turned back and smiled. "Yes, sir." His eyes glowed with a mysterious blue. The young master was already, he barely smiled, Ryun's dragon. Time passed, and 3 months later in the capital of the kingdom of Ben Choi Venton, people here still couldn't stop talking. "Have you heard that the Peyton and Smin clans are clashing?" The kingdoms of Dian and Foe had to step in to quiet things down. "What caused it?" "I heard a Peyton traitor kidnapped the last person of Smin bloodline. In the end, Smin accepted compensation from Pawn. The criminal hasn't been found, and the kidnapped child is still missing." What was House Sermine thinking accepting compensation? Their patriarch, known as the Golden Dragon, disappeared long ago. Once a noble house, now just a ruin. Such gossip grew day by day. At that moment, at the Fenton Gill branch, the assassin dancers were chatting. A female voice rang out. "The disappearance of the last blooded member makes the compensation even more necessary." The girl crossed her legs, thoughtful, and sighed. It was Saya, a level 2 assassin and head of the Fenton branch, complaining. "How boring. All old news everyone already knows." Uncle Don says there's also a rumor that Chuno, Smin's steward, was executed. He was found to be collaborating with people from Peyton. Anandro personally beheaded him. Saya asked in shock. "A master swordsman from Continent D actually did it himself?" Suddenly someone entered from outside. With an unhurried manner, it was Ryun. Saya said, "You're here, Long." He greeted softly. "Hello, Uncle Don." Uncle Don asked curiously, "Did you come to see the branch chief?" The room fell silent, sunlight filtering faintly through the window. Saya began. "Finally, you came today." She produced an envelope. "Do you know what this is?" "This is the recommendation letter nominating you to become an official member of MART." Ryun smiled faintly at that. "After all, there's still one more test." Saya nodded. "That's right. Your first time going into battle, right? But for you, this test won't mean anything." The famed assassin House Asen G, the 4th largest assassin group on the continent. After only 2 months at the Fenton branch, he had overcome every trial and reached the final test. Ryun's eyes grew cold at the mention of that. Saya continued, "Our branch has accepted an extraordinary talent, the shortest trial period and the youngest member in 100 years. He replied modestly, "I'm still far from the branch chief, a level 2 assassin after all." Saya teased, "Are you pretending to be modest? Anyway, compared to the first time we met, your expression is better now." She sipped her tea as she spoke. "The images from that night came back to my mind. It's been 2 months. A boy appeared quietly, in an obscure assassin group, and unexpectedly carried a vast sum of money. That night, Ryun's eyes were full of murderous intent, and my account of when he came to request an assassination. That was the first time Sapir met Ryun and encountered all those mysteries." Ryun replied calmly, "I heard G takes contracts as long as there's money. After confirming the sum, you treated me like a client." Saya denied it. "It wasn't money that changed my attitude. I just had a hunch. Perhaps I'll never meet such a strange client again." "Isn't it? A ragged kid bringing money. To hire someone to kill himself. What's not interesting about that?" Ryun said nothing, took the letter and stood up quickly. "I'll read the letter myself. Call me when the test is ready." Saya answered, "Fine." Then he stepped outside. The conversation between the two ended. Ken immediately asked, "You accepted him into G based on a hunch?" Saya replied, "Don't be ridiculous, you know the procedures. That boy completed all assassination training in just 1 month. For others, those courses would take 5 to 10 years to finish." She also praised, "Truly a talent. Have you investigated thoroughly?" Ken reported, "Liang has no family name, blue hair, green eyes, was picked up from the streets, and raised under the tutelage of an unnamed teacher. One day, the teacher disappeared. After that, he came here to seek information about his teacher. The special thing was that he proved himself to join Matan by requesting his own assassination. Because of that, he was evaluated and passed training extremely quickly." Saya doubted. "That information came from Lion. Is it reliable?" Ken confirmed, "Everything is accurate. I went to the place where he lived with his teacher, a house on the mountain, and there were traces of someone having been there." Saya interrupted, raising the question, Even if the information is correct, the most important thing is there any chance Leon is reincarnated? Ken also pondered that question. Saya continued connecting the facts. The young master of House Smin disappeared, and Ryun Smin, the mysterious boy of the same age, appeared at exactly that time. Could it just be a coincidence? I feel uneasy about it. Ken guessed. The possibility is almost zero. Saya asked, why? Ken continued, Ryun Sermine not only lacks magic power but is also weak in swordsmanship and physical strength. Everyone knows this. His results have been monitored since he was born. The signs of House Smin's decline and Ryun Smin, how could they be the same person as a genius like Leon? If you want, I can keep investigating. Saya stopped him. No, we can't waste talent like you on something pointless. Look further into that teacher. If he really raised Lion, he's certainly no ordinary man. In the next room, Ryun had overheard the entire conversation. He muttered, this woman really does have sharp instincts. The soul summoner skill is so convenient. As long as the soul exists, I can gather information through their eyes and ears. Ryun checked the status of the command token. Ryun Sermine, vocation activated, Death's Hand, level 13. He was surprised. The level cost from changing vocation has already recovered. Investing mana into corporeal domination also paid off, not only altering his appearance but also preventing detection by mana sensors, even fooling a level 2 assassin's form sensing skill. That day, Ryun used a soul swap technique to enter S's body. He gained a neat spirit technique and thought to himself, should I name it? Ryun curled his lips in a triumphant smile. The Malignant. The Malignant was born that day, surrounded by a tide of malice. He whispered, what's this? Strength 7, Agility 5, Mana 23, Skill F and Soul Shield. In both stats and skills, this could be a developable card. He happily realized, could this be the Phantom's ability? But it didn't appear in the skill description. Ryun reached toward the Malignant, murmuring as he examined it more closely, and the parameters gradually materialized from the Malignant. His eyes widened as he studied the system panel that had appeared, which included the task The Avenger with the reward still a question mark. Ryun thought to himself that this quest was supposed not to exist on the Dre continent, even in hidden quest where players must discover the conditions themselves to complete it. Clearly after defeating Dix, a completion notice appeared. The interwoven skills of Death's Hand, Phantom and the quest had caused the Malignant to be born. Run briefly thought, for now the Malignant is just a mana-draining monster lacking shared experience, but one day it will prove useful. That night, under the clear moon, Run cheerfully told himself, development requires looking to the future. The moon shone in the still wind. Run sat on the high wall in thought, his eyes distant. He inwardly decided he couldn't just focus on the present. From afar, Uncle Dawn walked over and asked, what are you thinking about? Ryun replied cheerfully, I'm thinking that after I pass the test I'll become an official member and someday head the Ma Tan branch. Uncle Dawn laughed. With your growth rate, you could dream of that. Uncle Dawn paused, stared off into the distance, then continued. There will be 3 candidates today, and only one of you will pass. This is the final test to become a level 5 assassin, an official member of Martin. Uncle Dan named each candidate for the test, his eyes full of killing intent and his demeanor solemn. If any one of the 3 kills the target, they will become an official member. Ryun listened with a determined look. Uncle Dawn announced the test began, and watched each person's process carefully. He continued, first, hear the information about the target. This target's name is Arok, 47 years old, a merchant who runs a decent shop and always travels with 3 mercenaries as bodyguards, 2 bronze-rank warriors and 1 silver-rank mage. Bala added, there's a rumor he recently took a young concubine. Every night he goes to her bedroom so the guards don't go near. Uncle Dawn praised, you gave only the target's name and yet investigated this thoroughly? Knowing the guard's situation and how to avoid them. Good. But the test is today. Who's to say he'll go to the concubine's room? Or can you take out the guards outright? Bala hesitated. So can you handle the 3 bodyguards? Uncle Dawn continued. That's why Martin gathered the intel. Now for the last part. Lion, if you have information, speak up. Ryun sighed and replied, am I obliged to tell you? All 3 were curious about his information. Ryun refused. This is a test where only one passes. I have no reason to share my intel. Bala angrily, we just shared our information, you know. Lip grumbled, we're teammates after all. Teammates? I was never taught about camaraderie in training. Bala and Lip were surprised. What? Uncle Don sided with Ryun. Exactly, this is a test. It's good to use your abilities, but the important thing is to use what you've learned to succeed. Discard or exploit when necessary. That's the assassin's instinct. His answer is true professional killer mentality. Uncle Don asked, "Anyone else want to say anything?" Bala and Lip fell silent. Uncle Don signaled immediately. "Then from now on you are free to assassinate the target." Uncle Don watched Ryun intently, thinking, "That kid gives me hope." He stood calmly and spoke about this mission. Sophia spoke up. "This time we're mobilizing 4 rank 4s and 3 rank 3s. Time limit 3 days. Location confined to Fenton City. Success awards an extra 100 gold. If you fail, we must formally accept Lion into Martin's Fenton branch for training." Uncle Don, hearing that, said it was crazy. The soldiers around sneered. 3 days? Ridiculous, try hiding and we'll find you in 10 minutes. A while later, after carrying out the mission, Uncle Don and the soldiers returned exhausted and reported, "We fail. That kid's traps and tricks are no joke." Saya smiled and said, "A deal is a deal. Lion, from today will train you." Ryun briefly thought, becoming Ma Tan's official assassin isn't easy, especially since this target was chosen by the branch chief. The hardest yet. Maybe I'm standing at the starting point of history. On a clear, cold, moonlit night everything was peaceful. Bala burst out of the building, shattering glass. He thought, "I disabled both the alarm magic and the trap mechanisms, avoided the guards, successfully infiltrated." Unexpectedly there were more mercenaries. A guard shouted, "Intruder! He's running that way. Don't let him escape." Lip hesitated and watched, thinking, "Stupid Bala," but thanks to him my job went smoothly. If he hadn't been spotted, I would have had to act to expose him. The target had faced countless assassination attempts. Each time Arok hid in the bedchamber of his first wife, and the room was guarded both inside and out. A woman's voice rose in anger. Taking a concubine was bad enough. Now he's dragging a bunch of assassins along too? Arok panicked and explained, "No, my love. It's not like that. The assassins aren't my fault. This room is equipped with maximum security." Lip, observing from above, thought, "The defenses are better than before and the number of mercenaries has increased. The permanent bodyguards have already been lured away by Bala. There are 5 regular guards around. I can take them head-on." Arok shouted in panic, "What are you doing? It's dangerous. Put that down right now." Seeing that, Lip peered down to see what was happening. Cammy held a knife, tears streaming. "I couldn't hold it in anymore. I remember the way you used to whisper that you loved me, but I can't let you keep taking money from my family." Arok tried to explain. "It was because of a lack of capital for the business." She spat angrily. "You used my family's money to buy gifts for your concubine." After saying that, Cammy suddenly struck, leaving Arok unable to resist. Lip watched everything in utter surprise. She had caused Arok to lose his life in an instant. The knife was stained red with blood. Cammy, trembling, let out a cry in the quiet night. She stammered, What have I done?" Arok collapsed to the floor with a deep wound. Cammy stood frozen as voices outside shouted urgently, "Mistress, what's going on?" Lip suddenly thought, the mission target was killed by the first wife. So is this mission a success or a failure? She realized one thing. Lion hasn't appeared yet. Why isn't he here? The atmosphere fell into an odd silence. Lip returned to the rendezvous point, lowered her head, and reported in a trembling voice, "The mission failed." She choked out that Arok was killed by his first wife, not by us. Ryun calmly glanced at Uncle Don. Lip shifted her eyes to watch Ryun, thinking to herself, how did Lion get back here before me? Or did he arrive at the mansion at the same time as we did? Bala also returned, his body covered in wounds. Uncle Don said, "Bala returned safely." Bala answered, "The bodyguards turned on each other, so I escaped." At that time, the guards chasing Bala started fighting among themselves, giving him an opportunity to flee. Uncle Don continued, "The test is over, and the assassination did not fail, because Lion completed the mission." The news left everyone stunned. "What? You mean the mission succeeded?" But clearly Arok was killed by his first wife. Uncle Don replied calmly, "Thanks to Lion." The group reacted in panic. What? He pointed his hand toward Ryun. Lion used a technique to make the first wife kill Arok with her own hands. Bala and Lip widened their eyes in shock. Uncle Dawn bluntly asked, Lion made the first wife personally kill Arok? Lion, explain how you did that. Ryun thought, do you really think I'll tell everything? Why should I explain? But then he curled a smug smile and answered with a sidelong glance. Lip and Bala tensely stared at Ryun. The solution lies in the relationship between Arok and his first wife. The sun sank, casting its glow over the entire manor. Bala asked Ryun, did you exploit internal affairs to carry out the assassination? Could the branch chief really have revealed the target to only you in advance? Ryun replied, I knew Arok was the target just like you two. He's a well-known merchant. The name alone makes him identifiable. What you two provided, the wine trade, the new concubine, the guard's details, the concubine's bedroom, were all accurate, but I had already investigated all of that beforehand. Ryun continued, while you two were still discussing how to assassinate him, I simply followed the plan I had prepared. Lip and Bala were stunned. Bala snapped, you said you didn't know the target before, now you say you investigated Arok? That makes no sense. Ryun replied, I never said I only investigated Arok alone. I investigated everyone with a bad reputation in this city, those who could plausibly become targets. By befriending merchants who like to spread rumors, I gathered information on each of them. And because I completed a 2-month training course in just 1 month, I was ready for any target and could react immediately no matter who it turned out to be. Both of them fell silent at his words. Ryun continued, during my investigation, I discovered someone who hated Arok to the core, his first wife, Kenli. I approached her. I suggested she hire Gil to assassinate him. Arok despised his first wife, using her money to support the concubine and the business. Kenli wanted him dead but still felt conflicted. He went on, I told her that if she increased security, Arok would be safe. And when something happened, he'd run into the first wife's room, the safest place. Then she could blame the concubine and her lover, making Arok wake up and return to her. Kenli, drunk and desperate, believed him immediately. If things had stopped there, it might have gone the way she wanted. But before the plan began, I revealed to her the amount of money Arok used to buy gifts for the concubine, all taken from her own purse. Uncle Dawn widened his eyes. From the start, it was all in your hands? Lip and Bala were too shocked to speak. Uncle Dawn asked further, but how could an ordinary woman stab her husband to death? Ryun sneered, because I helped a little. He explained, I mixed an alchemical drug into Arok's wine. I also put it into the mercenaries' drinking water to avoid fatalities among them. Luckily, it had exactly the intended effect. Lip asked, what kind of drug was it? A type that makes people lose control. Thanks to it, the mercenaries fought among themselves. Bala gasped. So even the guards fighting was your doing? Ryun answered, yes. Though we aren't taught about camaraderie, I don't want my training teammates to die. Bala blushed with emotion, and Lip fell silent as well. Uncle Dawn concluded, everything went as you planned. And with the drug's effect, Kenli killed Arok in a fit of madness. Lip murmured, you don't necessarily have to land the blow yourself for it to be an assassination. Uncle Dawn laughed heartily. Congratulations, Lion. You passed the test. Ryun smirked. Oh, and there's the payment and extra fees. Huh? Uncle Dawn was puzzled. Kenli is now a wife killer, but everyone will believe the assassin was the one who did it. She'll certainly want to pay extra to cover up the truth. Uncle Dawn was stunned. Bala swallowed dryly. That's completely different. Lip's spine chilled. From an assassin's perspective, that's a masterful move. She'd rather compete for second place than share the stage with Lion. Uncle Dawn said, you two go back to G. As for Lion, stay here. I have something to discuss with you. Lip and Bala left, leaving only the two of them. Uncle Dawn said in a low voice, do you understand what you've done? Kenli will now have to live the rest of her life with the guilt of killing her husband. She was just an ordinary woman, and now she's a murderer. G trains assassins, not monsters. Ryun turned his back and snorted. Before learning why Arok kept taking concubines, Ryun also thought Kenli was just an ordinary woman like any other. However, every concubine Arok had taken had been dealt with by Kenli. Arok himself traded in flour, lent money at usurious rates, and ran casinos. Behind the wine trader cover, he had driven countless people to ruin. Kenli usually used her family's influence to take care of the concubines, so she didn't have to act personally. Arok was weary of Kenli, yet even knowing those women would end up killed, he kept taking concubines. The bodies of those concubines were hidden by Kenli's family as disappearances, leaving the victims' families never knowing their fate and searching in vain every day. All of this was uncovered during Ryun's investigation. Even if it was a test, it was essentially an assassination contract. Kenli might not have wanted her husband dead, but assassins like Ryun and his team only get full payment when Arok dies. Whether the target deserved death or what the hirer's circumstances were isn't the assassin's concern. Ryun is right, isn't he? If conscience interferes with assassination work, can you still call yourself an assassin? Take the money for killing and then debate morality, motives, and methods. Is that necessary? Uncle Dawn looked at Ryun with a shocked, stunned gaze. Kenli never said she refused to kill her husband. She simply used the assassination contract, and the assassins completed it in their way. Even if Kenli must live in torment for killing her husband, it doesn't deny that the assassins were directly involved in Arok's death this time. Uncle Dawn spoke. Is conscience unnecessary for you assassins? Ryun replied. If people want to keep their humanity, they must be strong enough to change their lives from the roots up. Even if you try to reclaim your conscience, once you've accepted a contract, nothing changes, since you're still operating within the assassination organization. With that, Ryun left, leaving Uncle Dawn standing there in thought. The next morning, while it was still early, in front of Guild's stronghold, everyone was dressed in uniform, standing in neat lines. Congratulations on passing the exam. Leon, from this moment on, you are officially a member of Gil Martin and a 5th rank assassin. The system notification appeared. Mission completed. Ryun's body was enveloped in a blue light. Notifications rang out one after another. Level up, received a side quest. Everyone looked at Ryun, clapping and offering praise and congratulations. The system displayed the rewards received for completing the mission. Saya continued. From now on, as a 5th rank assassin, you can accept official missions from Master Ma. If qualified, you can also apply for promotion. Ryun replied, I don't plan to apply for promotion immediately. Surprisingly, I completed a single lucrative mission worth over 30 gold. Saya exclaimed. What? Ryun added, either complete 10 5th rank missions, or receive a recommendation from the branch chief or a 3rd rank assassin. Those are the promotion requirements, right? Saya confirmed. He then asked about Arok's payment. How much was the fee this time? Those nearby spoke up in indignation. What are you playing at? Ryun calmly. How much? Saya stammered. 10 gold up front, 10 gold upon completion, 20 gold in total. Balan and the guild heard this and were utterly astonished. The remaining 10 gold was an extra fee on the condition of keeping Arok's killing secret from Kenli. Uncle Dawn broke out in a cold sweat. Impossible. Ryun covered his mouth and flashed a sly smile. Even if it was only a test, everyone listened intently, their faces a mix of expressions, but following the mission, completing it, and securing the extra reward were all thanks to his initiative. The first promotion condition, a single mission worth over 30 gold, was clearly fulfilled. Saya, angry, gritted her teeth. Ryun declared, I hereby declare, I am 5th rank assassin Leon, and I request promotion to 4th rank. Ryun's words left everyone speechless. Saya grew even angrier, feeling he was unbearably arrogant. Ryun still smirked. Saya continued, I acknowledge everything you've shown, but you're insulting everyone here. An organization must have rules and principles. In the assassin world, only 4th rank and above are considered true assassins. Everyone must accumulate experience and capability, be vetted by peers, and take pride in rising to that position. You're looking down on all of them. Ryun's promotion qualifications, though imperfect, could be deemed sufficient. However, acting this way only makes people oppose you. Saya decided to pretend she hadn't heard, thinking perhaps he was exhausted from his first mission. Ryun cut her off. No, I will not withdraw my promotion request. Saya barked. If you want to live well here, learn some discretion. Uncle Dawn spoke up. Branch chief, he may have overstepped, but as the exam observer, I'd like to say a few words. Saya looked at Uncle Dawn for a moment, then agreed. He continued, Leon currently qualifies to take the promotion exam for 4th rank, not because he disrespects others, but because he demonstrated the most important thing in this test. Saya asked skeptically, The most important thing? Uncle Don said. It is pure physical capability, not just planning, but assassination skill based on one's own ability. Lip and Bala thought to themselves. He succeeded because of a clever plan, didn't he? Uncle Don continued. The 4th rank promotion exam cannot be passed without physical prowess. It's an opportunity to assess whether Leon has the real strength or a chance for him to receive a painful lesson. People began to change their minds and nodded in agreement. Saya covered her mouth and sneered. All right, I authorized the promotion exam. The 4th rank trial is something even well-prepared assassins must risk their lives for. Saya asked, Are you ready? She and Ryun clasped hands tightly. Run smiled confidently, yes. Night fell, leaving only the light inside the house. Uncle Don slammed his beer mug on the table. Truly a talented person who makes others' hearts skip a beat. At the dining table, he looked at Ryun and continued. You're being reckless. Bala added, You must have a new target, which is why you acted like that. Lip added, But you do have a plan, right? The 4th rank exam won't take place for at least a month or 2. Ire brought out drinks for everyone. Uncle Don asked, since he needs to assign suitable targets and tasks for the exam, did Ryun want him to train him beforehand? Ryun replied, Thanks, but I decline. I plan to rest for a while before the exam. Suddenly, Lip and Bala shouted loudly, Decline? Ryun continued, I intend to leave G for a time. Now that I'm an official member, I have the right to leave branch territory, don't I? Uncle Dan confirmed. That's right. Ryun said he'd return before the exam, and for news about the exam he could check in at Master Ma's branch. Uncle Dan said in surprise. Leaving Gil? Is that also your plan, Leon? He wiped the milk stain from his mouth and smiled mysteriously. That night the sky was full of stars and the air was quiet. Inside, Uncle Dan raised his beer mug and said, Fine, do what you want. Tonight we drink freely. Lively laughter echoed through the house as everyone reminded each other not to force Leon to drink. Ryun thought to himself that free moments like this wouldn't come easily again. From 4th rank upward, I'd have to take missions constantly and lose my freedom. My goal is to become branch chief. There will certainly be no time to rest. So before entering that battle, I have to take a trip. That very night, Ryun decisively set off, ready for a new journey. He stood on a rocky outcrop, gazing over the meadow before him, confirming to himself that he had set foot in the land of darkness, that deadly place. His face betrayed excitement, his eyes glittering with determination to conquer this dark land. Elsewhere, a group of riders galloped up, apparently escorting an important figure. Leading them was a red-haired young man named Ko Nilo, riding a white steed. The riders were moving along at ease when suddenly Ko Nilo came to a halt, because someone sat in the middle of the road far ahead. It was Ryun. He barked harshly. What are you doing? Ryun moved calmly and slowly. At this time, his left leg was splinted with a wooden brace as if injured. He slowly removed his hood. Ko Nilo froze when he saw his face. It turned out to be just a pitiful kid, his face streaked with tears. Ryun said softly, I twisted my ankle. Can you give me a ride to the village ahead? I can't walk anymore. If I stay here after dark, I'll probably die. That's why I'm sitting here, waiting to see if anyone will pass by and help. The young man could only run his hands through his hair in frustration, looking helpless. This insolent brat. But Ryun clasped his hands and begged. Please save me. Help me just this once. Won't you? Even the horse seemed helpless on its rider's behalf. Just then, the carriage behind lit its lamps, and a noble voice from inside called out, Ko Nilo, put the boy in the carriage. Absolutely not, someone in the carriage said. Then have him ride the horse. In the end, seconds later everyone saw Ryun sitting snugly in Ko Nilo's arms, while Ko Nilo stood there stunned and unbelieving. The members of the group immediately teased, Captain, that actually fits pretty well, making Ko Nilo flush with embarrassment. Only then did he ask Ryun's name. What's your name, kid? He lied. Leon. I'm from Benton. Hearing that, Ko Nilo said, Thanks to that kind girl, you're saved. The girl he referred to was the noble in the carriage. He didn't forget to add, Be grateful to your luck when you meet my lady. Ryun could only smile inwardly, thinking to himself, too bad this isn't luck but the Rose Badge plan, the sign of the Green Rose family. Before setting out, he had checked the route and discovered that a member of the Rose family would be traveling the same way. They had lived quietly on the Fan's Choi border, but the head of the household suddenly died, and she was exiled. Because she was only a minor border noble, the escort wasn't real knights but the Jose family guards, granted knighthood to legitimize the escort. At that moment, a blue-haired man in the group complained, "Damn it, must the young lady suffer like this?" Another replied, "Yes, it's all because of..." Ryun also thought about the fall of the Rose family. The blue-haired man frowned and continued, "It's all because of the Min family." Ryun silently recalled what he had investigated. The death of the head of the family had driven San Jose into exile. A question popped into his head. Does the Sermine family have anything to do with this? Sir Nilo suddenly confronted them. "There's no way it's the Min family." The blue-haired man defended himself. "I heard the Sermine house is cunning, that they killed the head to cover up evidence of collusion." Ryun was equally surprised to hear that. What? By midnight, the moon climbed high. Everyone made a makeshift camp in the forest, pitched tents, and lit fires to keep warm. One group went to settle the horses, while the others cooked soup and took the chance to rest. Ryun also leaned back against a rock to relax for a bit. He reflected, based on the information he'd gathered that day. The downfall of the Rose family stemmed from a conflict between the Smin house and the Peyton house. The Smin house belonged to the Kingdom of Dawn, and the Peyton house to Froe. The two nations were longtime enemies. The Jose family's eldest son had become a knight for the Smin house, creating a tie between the two families. While on patrol duty in the Lands of Darkness, he was killed by monsters, and the Smin house promised substantial aid to the Rose family in his memory. Nobles jealous of the Jose family's rise allied with the Peyton house, enemies of Smin, and exploited the conflict to act. Rumors spread that the Jose family was secretly serving as Smin's pawns, and the Sekman family killed the head of the Jose family to silence them. The Jose family protested, claiming it was an assassination plot by the Aegon house. But against Peyton's power, they were helpless. With their head gone, the family collapsed and was forced into exile to Dawn. Those who truly knew the inside story were only Sir Nilo, the newly appointed knight, and a few trusted retainers around San Jose Rose, but they were only makeshift knights hastily gathered by Cell. Ryun suddenly thought of Miss San Rose. This exile would not be easy. In the quiet night, the knights kept watch, while Miss San Rose finally had a little time for peaceful sleep. Outside, Sir Neo was recounting the old story. Moreover, the look from the second son of the Aeon family when he glanced at the young lady showed that the villains weren't the Smin house but damned Peyton and Aeon. In fact, this exile was only possible because the Smin house secured asylum permission from the Kingdom of Donon. Run beside them listened silently while diligently eating to fill his stomach. Sir Neo gradually regained his spirit. He laughed, tossed a branch into the blaze, and said, "The Smin house even squeezed out their last strength to give more support." Hearing the whole story, the group became more enthusiastic. The blue-haired man cheerfully raised his cup. "To the generous Smin house, cheers." Suddenly, another member noticed Run and offered him another bowl of soup. "Kid, want another bowl of soup?" He happily replied, "Yes, please." The man asked, "You must be bored since none of this concerns you, right?" Ryun politely replied, "It's very interesting." In truth, he had already suspected that he was deeply involved with the Smin house. Then Run suddenly voiced his concern. "But is this really okay? On an exile route to bring a child like me along, and to let me hear stories like these?" The knight, a bit annoyed, said, "So you plan to block the road to beg for help?" Making Run uneasy and sweat as he tried to avoid the question. Another member quickly came to his rescue, saying, "It's fine. After that little heart-to-heart, Captain Neo seems more at ease." The blue-haired man thought that, fair or not, the one suffering the most was still Miss San Jose. Run agreed. "That's right, the main problem is San Jose." Captain Neo and the other knights, probably from lack of experience, didn't recognize the gravity of this chain of events. He calmly closed his eyes, thinking about the future and the dangers about to descend. Thinking of the cruel, deceitful faces of the Pawn and Aeon houses, Ryun knew full well they had colluded. They wouldn't stop at killing the head of the Rose family, especially the second son of the Aeon family. Not yet 20, he already had 3 separate assassination contracts from different organizations aimed at him. Truly a hopeless scoundrel. But Run refused those contracts as not worth the effort. Either way, it showed he was a rotten bastard who bullied the weak. Rumor had it he was very serious about protecting himself, so hard to assassinate. Run briefly thought, if a person like that targeted Zenrose, then this is no time to be camping so leisurely. Suddenly Run sensed a figure moving along the cliff in the distance. He sprinted to another vantage point to observe. This time the feeling was even clearer. There really was a tail following them. He hesitated. Strike now or not? No, they had probably already reported his numbers and route to the mastermind. Better to take time to set traps to slow down their pursuit. Time passed, and when Run returned to the night's party, everyone looked at him in surprise and curiosity. Kid, why is your hair all muddy? He laughed it off. Oh, I just slipped and fell. The knights didn't think much of it, only advising him. Your leg was injured enough to make you ask us for help. So sit and rest to get better. Everyone left complacently without noticing Run hiding his boundary-breaching tools. He had dug many holes along the way, planning to set enough traps to slow the pursuing forces. Run thought, I've gathered the necessary information, so I'll probably stay with them only until the next village. Consider it repaying the bowl of soup. With that, he slept with peace of mind. By the next morning, when the sun rose high, everyone continued the journey they'd left unfinished. Run said goodbye to the knights, thanking them for letting him ride along to this point. Captain Neo asked, your destination is Dazong village, right? What is a kid like you doing near the shadowed area? Run replied proudly, I may look it, but I run a small trade. I buy monster ingredients in Dazong and sell them in Penton. The young jester chimed in, our roads split here, so I guess this is where we part ways. Suddenly, Captain Neo handed Run a small vial. Drink this before the sun sets. The young lady asked me to give it to you. Run asked in surprise. Did the young lady really give this to me? At the carriage window, Zenrose's figure briefly appeared, smiling and waving farewell to him. Captain Neo awkwardly scratched his head and said, the young lady also told me to thank you for giving us moments of peace. He listened and could only widen his eyes in surprise. The moment had come. Run said his goodbyes. Thank you, I'm really leaving now. Captain Neo expressed, if you need help, find us in Delon, though if you really need it, don't hesitate to come. The jester from afar praised. The captain may say that, but he's very kind. Even without the young lady's orders, he'd still help you, just a bit hard to get close to. Captain Neo felt embarrassed and quickly urged, what are you waiting for? Aren't you leaving? Run silently watched everyone's backs as they gradually walked away, sighing as he looked at the small vial in his hand. Then opened the stopper and poured it straight into his mouth without hesitation, until only a few droplets remained, spilling onto the ground. Suddenly, an explosion occurred in the distance, black smoke billowing, and the sound of countless horse hooves charging approached. A squad of tall, masked soldiers. They thundered past Run, and before he could understand what was happening, he saw 6 pursuers in hot pursuit of them. 2 common mercenaries, 2 novice swordsmen, all big and muscular, and also an annoying mage. He looked toward a man with a striking aura. Run guessed the other masked rider was certainly a noble, the second son of the Aeon family, Ruda Aeon. At that moment he grinned triumphantly. For an instant he and Run swept past each other, each wearing a face that betrayed their own schemes. Run glanced coldly, studying the belligerent group closely. As they rode off, the area soon returned to a calm stillness. Run judged the pursuer's skill to be higher than he'd estimated. A few traps wouldn't be enough to hold them, so he still hadn't fully repaid the bowl of soup. On top of that, he'd even drunk the vial. Seeing the empty bottle in his hand, he was surprised. This was a premium recovery potion, at least 20 silver per bottle. Run gave a helpless laugh. How could something so valuable be handed to a kid he'd only known one night, especially while they were in danger? What made the young lady so generous? In truth, the Rose family had no chance left. They would abduct Zenrose and slaughter the rest. Although what he was doing now was a bit much for the price of a bowl of soup, adding the vial in made it feel like a partial deposit. If they chased the fleeing carriage, more people would die, so I need you to help with one thing. Then he cast a spell, summoning a mysterious creature. When it fully materialized, he ordered, your first task is this konak, toward the group to support the knights. By now, the party had traveled a fair distance, when from behind the sound of hooves grew more urgent. Captain Neo keenly noticed something amiss, and immediately ordered everyone to hasten. The other knights were still puzzled, not yet understanding what was happening. Huh? Captain Neo quickly rode close to the carriage and instructed Zenrose. Miss, please endure a little longer. Even if the road is rough, try to bear with it. The blue-haired fellow asked, Captain, why all of a sudden? Before he could finish, Captain Neo's expression grew serious. He shouted, the pursuers are getting close. Those with mana are on our tail. Captain Neo pointed ahead and ordered, the border is right ahead. Move quickly. Then he called two others by name, Chaku, Gion. If they're about to catch up, you two must escort the young lady straight to the border. Once you reach safety, even the Aeon family won't dare touch us. They won't risk provoking Donon's border troops just to seize the young lady. And so, under Captain Neo's command, the entire party accelerated. He charged ahead, steeling himself for the battle to come. The blue-haired knight, now known as Chaku, couldn't bear to leave and called out, Captain, anger is better when it's rational. See you at the border. Captain Neo relaxed slightly and sighed, then quickly regained his resolve, turned back to face the enemy, and told himself, the Aeon Knights aren't worth my worry, and I am a knight of the Jose house. At the same time, the rough-looking Aeon men continued to charge forward enthusiastically. Ruta suddenly halted, a sword with fierce force sliced across the ground, blocking their path, and a powerful voice cried, stop right there. Captain Neo showed no fear and ordered, who are you to dare pursue the Rose family's carriage? Stand down. If you don't withdraw, I won't be merciful. I will chop off your heads. Ruta laughed with amusement, and the soldiers behind paid it no mind. He sneered and asked, chop off our heads? Do you think being a titled knight gives you the right to bully others? Then he removed his hood, revealing an identity that stunned Captain Neo, who stammered, Ruta Aeon. A swordsman behind nervously warned, young master, don't reveal your identity. Ruta smiled confidently. Either way, we must kill them all except for Zenrose, he ordered. Take her alive before they reach the border. His men immediately spurred their horses forward, leaving Captain Neo no choice but to raise his sword in defense. But in the clash, Captain Neo felt as if he were hallucinating, only catching glimpses of his opponents passing through his defenses. Immediately he realized there was a mage among them, and one of at least second rank. Captain Neo coughed up a mouthful of blood in bitterness, while Ruta laughed triumphantly. Don't worry, our fellow knights will handle it. As Captain Neo collapsed, hacking and coughing, a foot stepped forward and blocked in front of him. It was a familiar face. Ruta declared coldly, in any case, you'll die here. Captain Neo couldn't believe what he saw. He struggled up and demanded, Captain, why would the former Jose Knights captain? Ruta cut him off. Why? For money, of course. The Rose House is doomed. I can't wait to starve. This is just amusement. Entertain us. Having spoken, he burst forward with sudden speed, and the two who once fought on the same side now pointed their blades at each other. Captain Neo objected. Have you abandoned the code of knighthood? He replied indifferently. The world has changed. There's no place for knightly codes anymore. In a moment of distraction, Captain Neo was knocked and his sword flung away by the former captain, who said coldly, surrender now. War is coming, and with your skills you can find a new master. Captain Neo retorted fiercely. Shut that ungrateful mouth. Ruta, who had been watching, interjected. So what? Deal with it quickly. By now they've probably captured Zenrose. At that moment the former captain's blade was at Captain Neo's throat. He said casually, just you alone? Suddenly, someone's sword swung down, striking squarely into the former captain's back and sending him tumbling to one side. Ruta ground his teeth and turned his head. A blue creature was hovering before everyone. It turned out to be Konak. Luckily it arrived just in time. The knight, still confused, barked. Who dares? Konak said little and unleashed another round of attacks. Hundreds of arrows struck straight into the Aeon ranks, shaking the area with a violent explosion. The mage who'd formed a protective barrier around Gruta was terrified. Even when I try to block with a mana blade, it's too powerful. The knight fared worse. He took a direct hit. His limbs twisted, blood spouting from his mouth. Konak seemed to embody Run, wearing an expression of ecstatic excitement. They returned to the border area, where everything lay in ruin, blood and the defeated strewn everywhere. Zenrose's carriage had a broken wheel, and the draft horses had fallen. Chaku and Gion, though wounded, continued fighting until their last breaths. They understood silently that their force could not match the enemy. The Aeon men mocked victorious. You pretend to be knights for show? We're not afraid to cut you down. Why don't you behave and move along? Gion, helpless. Our force can't stand against them, not even the swordsman. Then a voice from the carriage rang out. Stop. The young lady stepped down from the carriage. Gion Chaku, you've done your best. Gion, surprised to see her, tried to stop her. Miss, if you go out. But Zan Rose drew a dagger, eyes resolute. I will go with you. Please spare the others. Otherwise I will bring everyone down with me and make you regret it. She pressed the blade to her throat, gaze steely. Surely your masters wouldn't want that, would they?
Please like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more awesome content.